Quando quiera.
So, welcome to my session, which is going to be all around artificial intelligence, machine learning, so not so far away from what you have seen before, but in my case I want to deep dive into S/4HANA Cloud, public and private edition. Before I go into the presentation, just a little introduction. I'm an SAP employee. I work in the partner organization of SAP, and what we do in the team I'm part of is to help partners to adopt the latest technology of SAP, in particular, in my case, in the area of S/4HANA Cloud Public and Private Edition. And today, during the presentation, I want to go through, first of all, our SAP Business AI strategy that you have partially seen this morning during the keynote from TechEd. And then look into how do we started to embed that technology, that SAP Business AI, into S/4HANA Cloud, both public and private. I will not distinguish between the two because everything you will see in this presentation applies to both directly. And then last but not least, maybe a less known concept, but in my opinion a very key one going forward. It's a framework which is inside S/4HANA Cloud, and that's called Intelligent Scenario Lifecycle Management. Has been there since a while, but has its own key importance going forward to exactly do what the previous chapter says, so embed AI into S/4HANA Cloud. So let's get started with the SAP Business AI, and I think just a very quick recap of the history and how SAP has been leveraging AI in the past. So we started with something that was not yet AI to analyze data and to create statistics based on that. Those statistics could help and have started to help over time, especially in the 2000s, to start predicting the future based on previous historical patterns that we could find in that data and statistics. And that's what we typically refer as machine learning. And it's also what you will see. Basically, I'm going to try to do a demo as well, and you will see mostly the machine learning side of the story, which is already up and running and working. What we started to do this year, you have seen many examples also in the last presentation, is to use the generative AI to start creating something that does not exist based on this training model that was explained really well before. And so we are approaching something new, which is the generative AI, but at the same time we could do that based on the way we were approaching already artificial intelligence, in particular machine learning. And so we decided to do it with very solid principles, starting with the relevant, reliable and responsible principles. And I want to quickly show you those principles. I know it may sound something not super relevant to more marketing, but at least in my opinion it's not, because that is the way that where SAP can differentiate from many other companies out there that are also approaching generative AI without necessarily having all the history and also the overall history in terms of experience that we had in this industry. So the first one, the relevant, the idea is to give those tools to end users, but where it's relevant and also with relevant data. And so that's why we are taking a little bit more time into the generative AI. I think the last question or topic you discussed in the previous session, it's a perfect example, right? So the models we have right now available are general purpose models that have been trained with a lot of data. Not necessarily with or not including business data, SAP related data. And that's why, I mean, in order to become relevant, it will have to be trained also with SAP business data. The second one is reliable, which is in two sides again. One, it's the side of being reliable on the data that the customer will have in their own landscape, and that's a topic we have actually already managed in the past, training models with customers' data for a long time. The second one is authorization to see things. You don't want to have an employee asking what's the salary of his manager and seeing the answer, right? You want still the answer to be tailored to the authorization that the business user has in the given system or in the given systems where it's across all of them. And then responsible, which is something I'm sure for you as well. I mean, it's a scaring future from some point of view, right? And so even more important to start with the right principles set at the beginning, and that's why our AI ethics policy was there. Not just now it's there, it was there when our developers started to develop those technologies. And then I said embed into our solutions. That's a famous picture, probably you have seen it already many times. We call it the rising sun, and here you have the basics, which is the horizon of the picture, is our business technology platform. And then on top our solutions, the one where we'll focus today, it's the Cloud ERP there. Now, how do we make this SAP Business AI umbrella, let's say, real and also pragmatic enough so that you can start consuming it? There are those different chapters, I would call them, into the strategy. The first one is what we call premium AI, and those are the area where we are focusing also on generative AI use cases that then can be used by customer for specific and concrete use cases. We also have some base AI, in this case, or AI capabilities that we embed. We have been already doing that for years actually, but we'll continue to embed those into applications, and we will see examples of them, including the demo. Then we have the BTP AI services. Those are different from the previous two, because here the idea is to give you the tools and the frameworks to build other scenarios that are not the ones that SAP has thought about and would like to introduce. And that's exactly also the last chapter, where we have, not necessarily, by the way, today, to be very open, all of them using the BTP AI services, but we have many partners that are already advanced in that on the SAP ecosystem. And so that's the chapter where we try already to reuse some of the technologies coming from our ecosystem on the AI chapter. So if I now try to merge the previous two pictures, so the portfolio and then the business AI, this means that there is an AI foundation, again, set of services that we will use to build SAP use cases, but also that you can use to build additional use cases. Then the AI capabilities that we will embed, and I will come to that in a second. And on top, we have decided to put this layer called Joule, our digital assistant or co-pilot. Co-pilot is something we tried to do in the past already, as you might know, but this time the difference is really, first of all, this already from the beginning cross-application idea, so that it doesn't, it's not burned into one or the other. It's actually there to be across all of them. Already today, consuming data from the SAP Build, the SuccessFactors, and the S/4HANA Cloud. And so all together, understanding the business, by the way, understanding also documentation, we will look into that as well as one case, and so being able to be really across everything. Now, that is our strategy overall, but as said, this session is about our Cloud ERP, so S/4HANA Cloud Public and Private, and this is a picture of AI cases, which are either, if they are in gray, already done and available. We will look into a few of them. We are working on some generative AI with large language model as well. Those are the orange one. We have some of them in process or in ideation, also coming from the broader AI space. So we are not starting from scratch, obviously different technologies, and that's what we put them into the documentation. So let's look at some of them before I come to some examples and demos. One that you might know already, it's the SAP Cash application. Is a service running on BTP, and it's able to do receivable line item matching with the invoices and between the invoices and the payments. It's already out there. Recently has been also embedded and packaged together in our Rise with SAP offering, so that customers can start to consume that. It's an example where The S4HANA Cloud is actually communicating with the service on BTP, which is the cache application itself. First of all, to train the model with data coming from the S4HANA Cloud of that specific customer. So it's customer-based training. And then on the other end, there is the execution of the model later on, where then the trained model will be called to return the matching example based on new payments. That's available. Now, moving into roadmap, we have the communication intelligence is something we are working on. In this case, you can think about that as an add-on, for example, for Microsoft Outlook, where when you receive an email, the add-on is going to analyze the text and find relationship with objects in the systems you have decided to expose to that. So if it's about a sales order that has not been delivered, for example, then the sales order, the status of it, and surrounding information, the customer, the contact person, is it coming from a contact person we have on that customer or another one, will appear here with the possibility to follow up directly and then connecting to S4HANA Cloud, for example, to check the status of the order or whatever else. That's one example we are working on to be released beginning of next year. Another one with the same timeline, it's transportation management. In this case, to do something similar to what I will show you now in the example, it's the processing of documents that are not necessarily structured. They can come from a PDF or even a piece of paper that has been scanned. And in this case, we are in the transportation management looking at goods receipts. So that's the type of document. It's more complex than the one I will show you in a second, and that's why we need a bit more time, but also we need the generative AI in this case. So it was not enough with different models and schemas. We also need some deeper interpretation of the document itself, and that's why in the buildings. And now I'll come to the last point, which is this functionality. Again, I don't know if you are familiar, so I will start from the beginning. The idea that we had already years ago was to put a framework inside S4HANA Cloud. It's available in all the deployments mode of S4HANA, and it's called Intelligent Scenario Lifecycle Management. The idea is that this framework can help you to develop multiple AI-related cases into S4HANA and also consume all the ones delivered by SAP. So once we deliver something, it goes in that box called Intelligent Scenario Lifecycle Management, and then you can activate and use them. Here you have some example of the types we have. Some of them are embedded using, for example, the machine learning libraries we have in the HANA database, PAL or APL. And so with that, we have basically a scenario running in S4HANA itself. Otherwise, side by side, and then we connect to a service externally. Again, if it's built by SAP, you would have that standard already, and you can configure it. Basically, this means that we introduce this entity called Intelligent Scenario. By the way, it's an ABAP-related object you can transport, so you can either select one that is available from SAP, deploy it or activate it, and then transport it into your landscape in the S4HANA, or you can build a new one, you can create it. And that's also enabled by the ISLM framework itself. The scenario is connected to a business solution, which means at the end a process, an application, and then in BTP you have a service, and this service is then connected to the scenario. This part is optional in a sense that you can have embedded scenario. As I said, if it's embedded, you don't have the BTP side or the external service. If it's side by side, you have it as well. Examples. We have a scenario called Intelligent Intercompany Reconciliation. This scenario is using an intelligent scenario. We have an application in S4HANA which is consuming the intelligent scenario, which is connected to a service in BTP called the Intelligent Intercompany Reconciliation. Another example is the sales order automation. In that case, we automate the creation of a sales order coming from potentially the PDF of a purchase order from the customer's customer, and then we have that scenario embedded into an application for automatic creation of sales order, which calls the scenario itself, which is connected to the document information extraction service in BTP. That's another example on how we can run it. Now, I couldn't bring a demo because all our systems are busy with TechEd, but let me try to show you two things. One here and the other one in a real system. The one here, it's our Joule, and here you see an example where in S4HANA I'm going to ask to Joule, how can I create a sales order in the most efficient way? Then Joule will have an answer, which is generative AI output, telling me that there are more efficient way to do it with a couple of suggestions. One is create sales order automation. The other one is a list of results. If I ask Joule to give me the list of results, the create sales order automatic extraction is the first one with a link to the help documentation where I can find it. Why I chosen that scenario or to ask that, it's because that's the same I want to show you in a demo. So in that case, it was the example number 2 you have seen before, where we create the scenario. So let's look at that into a system where we have here the intelligent scenario lifecycle management with two things. The scenarios, which is where you define or see the ones that are defined, and then the management, which is the way where potentially you train it if you want to. So here, if I search a sales order, I have this one. This is my intelligent scenario for the sales order creation, has been published in this case. And from the same application, by the way, I can create here embedded or side-by-side scenario directly from here, right? Now, on the management of those scenarios, I'm going to find the same because it's been published already. And here it's where potentially I can then manage things like the training of that with different versions that I can do. Now, in this case, there is a default version, and here a message that tells me that the model has been pre-trained. In this case, we don't do customer-specific training. We know enough about all the different type of formats of these documents to run it directly by the system. Where is connected now? It's I'm in sub-GUI in the same system now, and I have a transaction here which allows me to create a connection. So that's a connection that goes into the service in BTP. I have done that up front, and I also have, just to show you that it's real, the same connection. It's actually here defined in the lovely, where is it? Here. In the SM59, the RLC connection. So here I have the details, I'm connected. Now what can I do? It's, again, remember there is a scenario on the business side. In this case, it's this application, create sales order automation. I can go here, and then what I can do is simply upload the file. The only thing I need to tell to the system, because it's not something can be derived, is the company code where I want to operate. By default, I have the one of my user authorizations. And then I have a PDF. The PDF is just, again, a sales order created by the customer, my customer, and then I upload. Now, what is going to happen? It's that the system will start analyzing the data and give me the result. As usual in demos, I have prepared another one because it's going to take 10 minutes more or less, which we don't have. So I show you what happens. What happens is that once the PDF has been analyzed, I will get all the sales order details that have been extracted, and from here I can simulate or create a sales order directly. So it's not going to create it automatically, it's going to analyze it and propose what is going to be the sales order, and then I can decide to create it by myself. I can also just simulate it if I want to. So that's a quick example where the scenario is there. I use the intelligent scenario lifecycle management. I activated it. I created my connection with BTP, document information extraction service, and then I can use it already. Everything you've seen now excluding the Joule part, it's available today for every customer. And by the way, many other things are available today. Now, we don't have the time, but in the same system where I showed you that, I also have quotation conversion rates. That's more the prediction, the machine learning we have seen that we have already done. Those are also available, predicted delivery delay. So those applications of embedded AI are already there and ready to be consumed. So ready that there is a scope item for public edition of S/4HANA Cloud, where you can also learn how to configure it and how to use it for your user. So it's also pre-configured and from that perspective. You can find out more in that community blog once you get the slides. And for our overall business AI strategy, you can find out more in the sap.com/AI, where we have all the cases, documentation about that, and details about how we do AI for the different LOB applications we have. And that's it from my side. That's my contact if you want to have
You
more
have
information.
10 minutes more.
I have 10 minutes more, which we can use for questions actually.
Yeah, sure. Luce,
Yeah, I have a question.
a por él.
Do you know when is expected to release the trial of Joule?
Yeah, the trial for Joule in the SAP Start or in SuccessFactors is expected in a couple of weeks from now. But the one for S/4HANA Cloud, so the service embedded in S/4HANA Cloud, then it will be released next year, Q1 of next year.
So it depends on the product, because we saw Joule in the Business Application Studio, in the Eclipse, so each has different release date.
Yeah, because the release date is the dependency or the possibility to connect Joule into the given application or system. In S/4HANA Cloud, for example, that will be its own framework to connect it, and so then we expect it for next year. Yeah. The fact that it is application specific, by the way, it's what was said before in the previous session, right? We don't want to release something that does not understand completely the mechanism of that specific application, and SuccessFactors or S/4HANA Cloud are completely different, let's say, functional areas. And so from one side it's learning what is SuccessFactors, the entities and so on, employees, managers and everything else. On the other end is S/4HANA Cloud itself. So I would expect that something I don't know directly, but I would expect also in S/4HANA Cloud there is a learning curve, not just for all of you, but also for Joule, for all the entities and all the models we have there, which is something that will happen next year, most probably. Any other question? Did you know about the intelligent scenario lifecycle management?
Esto es mandatorio.
Acepto preguntas en castellano también.
En catalán, ¿no?
¿Catalán? Sí, digamos como muy lento, si es en catalán.
I have a question.
Yeah.
These all scenarios have been embedded and side by side. So
Yeah.
in embedded, for example, it's using any predictive AI, or it's also generative AI, something like that?
No, it's a good question. So when it's embedded, we don't plan to have models, generative AI or large language models embedded into S/4HANA. That's not the plan. So the generative AI capabilities will come with the side-by-side. And the AI core service in BTP will exactly be the way for S/4HANA Cloud to consume a large language model. Going back to the principle, we don't want to connect directly S/4HANA Cloud with the intelligent scenario lifecycle management into a generative AI or into a large language model. Because if we do that, then the principles I showed you for 10 minutes at the beginning would not make sense, right? So that's why there will always be a way to filter when it comes, so that we can respect those three principles, and it will be through a BTP service. But we don't plan to embed it into S/4HANA Cloud, so it will be a side-by-side for generative AI. By the way, just while you're thinking, if you have more questions, if I go back for a second, there was this introduction slide. This is the intelligence analysis cycle management where you can create a new one, and SAP AI Core is already listed here. Now it's probably too small for you to see it, but trust me, it's here. So I mean, again, the framework, it's already advanced in itself. It's more about the content, especially the one from SAP that needs to come and will come. So that's the main thing. But I want to really have you going back home and don't think that, I mean, you have seen fantastic things in TechEd and then there is nothing today. I mean, today there is already a lot, and especially there are the basic, the frameworks that we already built up front to enable those kind of scenarios, including the side-by-side with generative AI. No other questions? If not, I think we can close here and gain some time.
Thank you.